Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make homemade peppermint patties, and this is what they look like. On the outside we have a shiny coating of dark chocolate. Inside, this wonderfully smooth and creamy peppermint filling. You know, these are really popular during the Christmas holiday season, but really I like to make them year-round. They make the perfect after-dinner treat. So we're going to start with our peppermint filling. If you have a stand mixer, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer for this, or really this filling is easy to make. So you could just a large bowl with a wooden spoon. So the first thing you will need is 2 cups, which is 240 grams of confectioner's sugar. It's also known as powdered or icing sugar. I'm not going to sift it. I'll let the mixer do that. And then you will need 1.5 tablespoons, 20 grams of room temperature butter. You can use either salted or unsalted here. And make sure, like I said, it's room temperature. And then to bind everything together, we are using 2 tablespoons, about 28 grams. You can use, I'm using a heavy whipping cream today, but you could also use evaporated milk. Just dump that right in there. And then for our flavoring, I'm adding just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of pure vanilla extract. And then for the peppermint flavoring, I'm using 1/4 teaspoon, not very much, but I'm using 1/4 teaspoon of pure 100% peppermint oil. Now on the bottle, usually comes in these little bottles, it will say food grade. Make sure it's food grade peppermint oil. And I love to use peppermint oil instead of peppermint extract because it gives your peppermint patties that wonderfully, like, you know, when you breathe in that cool menthol feeling in your mouth, which I love. So peppermint oil, pure peppermint oil, is about 4 times the strength. I think it says that on the bottle here. 4 times the strength of pure peppermint extract. I know people are going to say, "Can I use peppermint extract?" You could. I've never tried it, but just you're going to have to at least, because it says 3 to 4 times the strength, so you're going to have to add a lot more of the peppermint extract. So I would recommend you buy peppermint oil. It's hard to find in stores, maybe cake decorating stores. The brand I use is Loran. They actually have a website. You can order right through them, or even you could order on Amazon. There's lots of sites online where you can order it. So like I said, 1/4 teaspoon. And that's it. That's all we need for our filling. Now we're going to mix this on low speed until everything comes together. And then I'm going to mix it like maybe a minute or 2 longer until it gets like in a round ball. It's really soft and pliable, kind of like Play-Doh. So if you were doing this by hand, you know, just kind of stir it in the bowl till it comes together and then take it out of the bowl and just knead it on your countertop until it kind of seems like Play-Doh. If you need to, if it's sticking to your counter, just put down a little bit of powdered sugar so it doesn't stick. So it's really easy to make. Okay, we're done. So you can see it's kind of very smooth, kind of like Play-Doh. It's the best way I can describe it. So I actually did this video back 2011, I think it was. And when I did it then, once I made the filling, I actually covered it and chilled it. And then I rolled it into little balls, and then I flattened the ball to make the patties. Since then, I've decided to do it this way. I find it a little easier, And I'm going to roll it between 2 sheets of parchment. You could use wax paper. And the reason I do that, and then I use a cookie cutter and cut out my shapes. One, I find it easier to do this, and 2, I get the shape is more defined, so a better patty shape, I would say. But if you want to do it the old way and just chill it and then roll it into balls and flatten them, you can do that. But instead, I got a sheet of parchment, put another sheet on top, and then with my rolling pin, I'm going to roll this till it's about, I like my patties about a quarter, like the filling about a 1/4 inch thick, which is about 1/2 centimeter. I mean, if you want it thicker or thinner, I mean, that's how I like it, so that's how I'm going to do it. But if you like your filling thicker or thinner, then go for it. So when you're rolling, so if I'm doing this about a 1/4 inch thick, that would be about between a 7 and an 8 inch round, so it's 18 to 20 centimeters. So just roll. When you're doing this, periodically, just pick up your two sheets of parchment and flip it over. If your parchment was a little wrinkled, then just lift up, peel back, and get it nice and smooth. Now, if you just, I'm just going to, a little tip here. If you just happen to have like a counter like mine that's really slippery, it's very hard to roll with the parchment. So what I've done is I've just bought one of these pads of silicone, and it just sticks to my counter, and now I don't have a problem with my paper sliding all over the place. Okay, so just roll it till it's about 1/4 inch thick. Okay, so that's about right. Just, you know, when you run your hand over the top, and then you can tell that the whole thing is the same thickness, because you don't want, usually what happens is the sides are thinner than the center, so just run your hand over. So now, once we've done that, what I'm going to do is just take a baking sheet and slide that, and then, now there's 2 ways you can do this. I like to do it the fast way. I'm going to put this into my freezer to chill. You want to chill it till firm. So if you put it in the freezer, it's like 10-15 minutes. You could put it into the refrigerator, but of course it's going to take longer, maybe an hour. So that's what I'm going to do. And when we come back, we will cut out our patties. So now my filling is nice and cold. So we are going to cut out our patties. I like mine about 1.5 inches, which is about 4 centimeters. So that's the size cookie cutter I'm using. Like I said, bigger, smaller. So if you're going to cut them 1.5 inches, about 4 centimeters, you will get about 28 to 30 patties. So if you wanted to make lots, say for Christmas, you could just double this recipe really easy. So if you want, you can kind of put your cookie cutter like in some powdered sugar, and then I'm just going to press down and then I just have a baking sheet lined with some parchment paper. I mean, you can just put wax paper or nothing really on there. So you just go and cut them all out. Try to do it as closely together as you can so you can get lots the first round. Okay, you might want to use like a knife or an offset spatula, especially towards the end, it starts to soften. So just put on there. So we have lots of scraps. So what you're going to have to do is gather them up, then re-roll, freeze, and cut out. And then what we're going to do is put these into the freezer, because we want to get them really cold again, because our next step is we're going to melt them in or dip them in our melted chocolate. So once you cut out all your patties and you have them on your baking sheet, what I did is I put it back into the freezer. I mean, you could, again, you could put them in the refrigerator, but if you put them in the freezer, it takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes to get them really cold and firm to dip in the melted chocolate. If you used the refrigerator, it's going to take probably a couple hours. You could even leave them overnight because you want them really cold and firm when we dip them. So now we are going to melt our chocolate. So you will need a saucepan of simmering water and in a heat-proof bowl. I like to use stainless steel. I have 8 ounces, which is 225 grams. Now you can use either, you want to use a good quality, either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet chocolate. So what that means is, I would say like a semi-sweet starts at about 55% cocoa content, and bittersweet's probably up around 70, so somewhere in there. I'm actually using, I think this is a 66%, because you know, the filling is quite sweet. So personally, I like to use like more towards the bittersweet chocolate. I like that the kind of bitterness of the chocolate with the sweetness of the peppermint filling, but each to their own, so whatever you want to use. Now you can find chocolate on your baking aisle. They usually label it now like not only semi-sweet, bittersweet, but they actually do put the cocoa content. You can go on the candy aisle and your favorite chocolate bar. They usually label it too, and then if you're using a chocolate bar, just, you know, finely chop it. I'm actually using, you can buy these like little pellets. That's what I'm using. But like I said, whatever type you want. So I'm going to put that over, and then I like to, over your water, and then I like to add 1 tablespoon, 13 grams. I'm using a vegetable shortening. One, it helps, the reason I do that is it helps smooths your chocolate out when it melts, and it helps to keep it shiny. We are not tempering the chocolate. You could, if you want to go through that process. I don't. So the only difference is to keep your peppermint patties, if you're not tempering your chocolate, to keep them like nice, the chocolate nice and shiny and, you know, hard when you, kind of crisp when you bite through, we have to store them in the refrigerator. That's the difference between if you temper it or not. Like I said, if you want to go through that process, you can. So I'm just going to put it over. You just want your water barely simmering, and we're going to melt our chocolate and our shortening together. Okay, so our chocolate is melted, so take it off the heat. You want, like I said, your water to be just barely simmering. We don't want to overheat our chocolate. So that looks good. So now, what I like to do, I mean, you could just take your patties and dip them into this bowl, but I actually, just make sure you get the water off the bottom of the bowl. I like to use a smaller bowl so that the chocolate's deeper. I find it makes it easier to dip. This is a bit of a process here. I mean, they're not hard to make, they just take a little bit of time. But if you give these as a gift, everyone will love them. So now I have my chocolate. You will need a fork to dip. There's also, you can buy like candy dipping tools. I don't have them, I'm just using a fork. So I have my patties in the freezer. I like to kind of take out a few, dip, to keep them really cold so that they don't soften when you dip them into the chocolate. So excuse me while I go get a couple out. So let's take 3, and get your fork and just kind of drop it in there like so. Make sure it's all covered with chocolate, and then you want a baking sheet lined with parchment or foil, and just kind of let the excess drip off and put on your baking sheet like that, and just assembly line. Okay, this is last one for this sheet because it's full up. So now, okay, so once you have all them done, we're going to put this into the refrigerator, and that's going to harden up our chocolate. So then after I do that, we will come back and we will try one. So once I dipped all of my patties, I put them into the refrigerator uncovered for about a half an hour. It takes that long for that chocolate to really harden. So now we have our peppermint patties. Now, if you're a little sloppy like I sometimes am, you get a little extra chocolate on there. Now, you could, kind of take a knife and cut them, make them perfect. But these are homemade. I don't really like them perfect. And I don't want to cut the extra chocolate off because I don't want to waste it. I want to eat it. So if you want to take the time, you can neaten them up. But, so here we have it. Oh. I love peppermint patties. The chocolate is hardened, so you have the wonderful flavor of the chocolate. And inside, oh, it's smooth, it's creamy, it has that really nice cool flavor from the peppermint. So you really have to try to seek out the pure peppermint oil because it makes all the difference. This tastes like, when you buy peppermint patties, it has that same flavor, but make your own. They're worth it. And so you can cover and store these. I would say you have to store them in the refrigerator, remember, for at least a week, 10 days if they last that long. You can freeze them, which is good too. So when you have a craving, you can just take one out of the freezer. But you must make these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.